Horror movie remakes is something which people can either love or absolutely despise. Some are amazing, some are terrible. Today we're focusing on the amazing, with counting down the top 10 horror movie remakes which we thought really stood out. So yeah, today I'm joined by my buddy, MisterHotTake, to of course discuss these movies. So welcome, how's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm ready to talk about these remakes and how much I love them.
Yeah, I mean, some of these are really good. There's of course been some terrible remakes, but thankfully that's not today's video, so we don't even need to think about those. But yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So, what is your number five? What is your fifth favorite remake?
Okay. So this one was a hard one for me. I was fighting, trying to figure out which one. But my number 5 is going to be Fright Night.
Yeah.
I really love that movie. I love the original as well. But the Fright Night remake was one of the first vampire movies that I remember as like a teenager. I think I was a teenager. Hold on now. I don't remember what year the movie came out. Hold on. But anyway, 2011. So yeah,
Yeah.
uh, late teens, early 20s, around that time, and I I really enjoyed this movie. It has a fantastic cast. Um, it does vampires the right way. Yeah, just absolutely loved it.
Yeah. So my number five is actually a film which I didn't think you would have, but I did say it beforehand, so you're gonna know what it is. But it's My Bloody Valentine, the remake from 2009. Such a good remake. I loved it. I really wish that they did a follow up because that would have been sick.
Oh yeah,
Because
dude, I
you
love
know,
Jensen Ackles, so
yeah,
he's fantastic.
and I mean it's just a great movie as well. Like it's got some good gore in it as well because early 2000s, kind of right before 2010s. So it was right at the end of like the tortury kind of like gory era of horror, which is one of my favorite eras, and it's got some great kills. So yeah, it's great.
I so it was an interesting era because like the 2000s spawned a lot of really gory movies, but it also had just a ton of just not good movies that came out
Yeah,
during that era. So it was a strange. The 2000s were strange. Just real quick, I think a lot of it had to
yeah,
do with they were like, we have CG now. Let's put CG, bad CG now, and let's put it in everything.
yeah,
Before they knew how to make really good CG, they're like, let's put all this really terrible CG in everything. And I think that was part of the issue in the 2000s. But anyway, my my number 4 is the Day of the Dead remake from 1990. It I actually prefer it over the original by quite a bit. I think because I when I watched the original, I appreciate what it is and what it established in the horror genre, but there's just there's scenes where you have these zombies like shambling about outside in the original, and it just looks kind of goofy, and there's only like one or two of them, and it just it feels it is dated and it feels dated, and um but the 1990s remake absolutely, it's like, okay, we're gonna take this movie and just make it updated and better, and
yeah,
it's fantastic.
yeah. I agree. It's a great remake. I used to enjoy the original, but I do like that one a lot as well.
The original's good. Don't get me wrong. I think that, you know, he also didn't have a lot to work with at the time. So it's made on a budget, like a low budget. It's just him and his friend. Like, let's just throw this movie together. We got this idea. They did a great job. But the 1990s remake, it's almost a shot for shot same movie. It's just done better, in my opinion. But they had a bigger
Yeah,
budget. So, yeah. All
yeah.
right.
So my number 4 is It from 2017. I was kind of conflicted about including this because technically it's not a remake; it's a readaptation of the book. But there is an old movie, so I'm counting it. Screw it, yeah.
I
So
counted. I counted as a remake. If
so
if a film exists previously to it, and then you redo it, it's a remake.
yeah. So fair enough. So it's great. The younger actors have great chemistry in this one. I think they have better chemistry in this one than they do, in the second one. I felt the adult actors didn't have as much chemistry. I'm just gonna shove both It movies for my number 4. I'm not gonna do like just the first one because it's really just one part of the story. So I'm gonna have both of them.
And it makes
Um,
sense. Even the original was a two-parter that
yeah,
it crisscrossed a lot throughout. But it yes, so it was a two-parter as well. So I think that's fair.
yeah, and I love Pennywise in this one. I think he's a lot more creepy for me. I know like people who probably grew up with the original find that one scary, but I didn't really find it that scary because, of course, it's a bit dated now and it's just not really as scary for me. Of course, I watched this originally when I was a kid, so I found this terrifying. Of course, now rewatching it, the CGI is a bit janky, especially when he's doing his little shaky thing, but I still think it's pretty cool. Bill Skarsgård, probably one of his best performances. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's fantastic.
So, what's your number 3 then?
My number 3 is the Evil Dead remake from 2013. Is that correct?
It's either 2013 and 2012, yeah.
Something like that. So it is so good because it is taking it's more of a remake of the original, but it's also a readaptation because it's different because it's more serious like the original is. It takes a harder push into the horror tropes instead of the more comedic side of it. Even though I absolutely love the comedic side of Evil Dead as well, but it is so gory and just a fantastic film. Um, I'm I was really impressed with the movie.
Yeah. No, I agree, and surprisingly, my number 3 is also Evil Dead. So we can just have this whole section just us talking about that movie. Father Girl's great in that movie as well.
Final Girl is fantastic. Although, so the first time I watched it, I didn't know how I felt about the whole we're gonna take our friend to this cabin for an intervention thing, and then
Yeah.
that whole premise of it, I was just kind of like, you didn't have to do this. You could have just had these friends go into the cabin for any reason.
Yeah.
But I get it. Like they had to. They're trying to force a narrative into the story. Just kind of, I don't know. That was having your final girl be, this drug addict, and
Yeah.
I didn't much care for that. But yeah, her at the end of by the end of the movie, she's fantastic in it, and yeah, it is just a really good time.
Yeah, and the direction and the kills and the gore as a whole is great in the movie. It's got some really, really good effects.
Yeah.
Of course, I love the effects in the original. I love like the deadite effects in that as well. This one was really good as well.
Yes. So the all the stop motion stuff in the first three movies uh, is so just interesting. It like gives it its own unique feel to it whenever you're watching the original movies. It's almost like
Yeah,
if you're watching like what was like Jason and the Argonauts or um, Clash of the Titans, like those old films with the claymation monsters and stuff. Like I
yeah,
absolutely love those movies. Like I used to watch Clash of the Titans, Jason the Argonauts, the Sinbad movies, like all that stuff. I love all of those films. So having that claymation animation for the monsters in the originals is awesome. But the way that they came in and did this and Evil Dead Rise, like Evil Dead Rise was absolutely
yeah.
fantastic. Like I am really excited for the Evil Dead franchise. There's not a single bad Evil Dead movie. There's not, and even the TV show was fantastic too.
All right, so while recording this, I realized that I completely forgot about my number three. I literally just moved on to asking MisterHotTake about his number two. So my number three is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween 1. His original Halloween is such a good movie. It's a great remake, such a reimagining of the first Halloween movie. It's very different as well. It doesn't really like try to be the original too much up until like the end, where it still differs, which I like. It's got that Rob Zombie meanness, which you can expect from every single one of his movies, which can work and can sometimes feel just a bit much. Here, I think it works amazingly, but with other ones, I think it doesn't work as well. Thankfully, with this one, it works quite well because it does offer an explanation for why Michael Myers killed, which I didn't enjoy as much, but you know, it's pretty good. On to MisterHotTake's number two. So yeah, what's your number two then?
Well, my number two is It Part One. And I'm not going to do it as a coupling with part two because part one is just significantly better than part two is. But It Part One is probably the best Stephen King film adaptation ever made. One of the best. I know there could be an argument for a couple others, but is
Yeah,
definitely top five. You know, top three. But to me, it's probably the best Stephen King adaptation ever made. I absolutely love the film. Like all the scares, Bill Skarsgård is just a perfect villain in that movie. um, the kids that they got for the film, you know, child actors a lot of the times are difficult to get to act properly, and they're some of the best child actors that have on film. Um, yeah, it's just a great freaking movie, man.
yeah, I agree completely. It's as I said when I did my little bit on it. It's one of um the best modern remakes. I do think it's scarier than the original, but the
One hundred
original's
percent.
still great, and so is this.
Yeah. What was your number two?
So, my number two is Nosferatu. So, it's incredible what they're able to do with this movie. It's one of the most insane movies I've watched recently. It's got some insane effects, really good use of CG, um, good amount of blood as well. You know, it is a vampire movie, so the blood is there. Um, Nicholas Holt was amazing in it. Lily Rose Depp was amazing in it. I didn't even think it was. Oh no, everyone said this, but I didn't think it was Bill Skarsgård for the entire movie up until one shot where it looks like him. One shot on Nosferatu where he's properly in the light, it looks exactly like Bill Skarsgård, but with a massive forehead.
Nice.
But the rest, it does not look like Bill Skarsgård. He doesn't feel like Bill Skarsgård. It's just someone else. It's insane. And the movie is beautiful. The score is amazing. One of the best I've heard recently. And it fits so perfectly with the movie.
That's great. I have not had the pleasure of watching the movie yet. I'm sure I'm going to love it though.
Yeah. So, do you have any honorable mentions now? So, before we get to number one, the creme de la creme, do you have any movies that you think were almost there to make your top five?
So, honorable mention, and this is the one that I almost put at number 5. But Friday the 13th. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I am not a fan of most of the Friday the 13th movies. There's very few that I actually enjoy, and the remake is one of them. I really love that movie. But Friday the 13th has some of the best merch on the market, so I can't help but buy it sometimes.
I 100% agree. They have some of the best merch in like all of like the horror genre. I walked past the shop one time and I saw that they had like a jacket with Friday the 13th all over it. I was like, I really want to buy that. But it was really late and I could not be bothered to spend another minute outside in the cold, so I just walked home.
Even the font, like just the font, like stands
Yeah.
out, and you want be like, oh, I need that, like, and then just such great merch.
Yeah, so my honorable mention is actually Silent Night from 2012.
Oh.
It's actually a really good reimagining. I wouldn't say remake because it takes elements from a few of the films similar to the Friday the 13th remake and pretty much makes it one whole thing. It's sort of like a murder mystery thing at the same time, so it's different as well. The kills are insane. I didn't expect that amount of gore. It was mental.
So it's a reimagining of Silent Night, Deadly Night? Or,
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I have not seen it. I haven't actually seen. I think I might have seen the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I don't think I've really seen any.
The first is a very interesting movie. I reviewed them recently, so check them out. But like, shameless plug, I got to. But the original is interesting because although it's not a bad movie, it's a very mean movie. I couldn't really get that much into it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was very mean. I had a lot of stuff that I didn't want to watch, but it was still.
Is it 70s or 80s?
It's. I want to say 80s, I think. But
80s.
I'm not 100% sure.
Early 80s, probably. Because there's a lot of movies from the 70s and 80s that are actually just mean-spirited movies. Like, I have realized that going through and watching them, especially like the not mainstream ones. They were they had some really mean-spirited movies back then. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so what is your number one favorite horror movie remake?
My number one horror movie remake of all time is Dawn of the Dead. It is not just one of the greatest horror remakes of all time. It is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It is the best zombie movie ever made, in my opinion. And I just absolutely love the movie. It takes the concept of being stuck in a mall during a zombie apocalypse is probably one of the best concepts ever made. And it's just, in my opinion, it's better than the original because there's more people stuck in the mall. and there's a lot more dynamics going on. And then you have the Disturbed, Get Down with the Sickness, music remake. Come on, get down with the sickness. Just the
Yeah,
Tunes remake or whatever it is, and that just is absolutely fantastic. Dawn of the Dead is one of the best just horror movies ever made.
yeah, I agree. It's so great, and it has, as you said, some like really good moments in it. I do like how there are more people in it, as you said, and I think probably the best Zack Snyder movie. You know, um, I don't like a lot of his movies, but that one is one which I will actually sit down to enjoy and watch.
I actually like a lot of Zack Snyder's work, but Dawn of the Dead is my favorite of his
Yeah,
movies. Absolutely, it's just a masterpiece of a movie.
yeah. Right. So my number one is actually the Friday the 13th remake.
Nice.
It's so good. It's got some great kills. It actually is able to, make me enjoy the franchise. I don't really enjoy a lot of them. Similarly to you, it's not my favorite franchise. I don't hate it as much as you. But I do still enjoy it for like what it
Listen,
is.
listen. Hate only happens whenever there's so much love on the other end. If nobody overhyped the Friday the 13th franchise, I wouldn't hate it so much. I'm gonna be real with you. I
Yeah,
would just be like, oh, it's a stupid franchise with a couple of good movies. But because it is, a lot of people say that it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest horror franchise ever made, like that's bullshit. It's
yeah,
fucking stupid that anybody would say that. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but it is absolutely not even remotely close to being the greatest horror franchise ever made.
yeah,
Not even close.
yeah. So like, I do enjoy the remakes so much though. Like, it's able to put the first like few films into one, and it works perfectly.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's the remake is fantastic, and then I have a few others that I do enjoy. Um, and but other than that, like most of them are just, and they're not even. Here's the thing, they're not bad movies. They're just super boring for slasher films. There's so many other slasher films that came out around the same time that are just way more interesting and
Yeah,
do a lot more with what they have. And even that, like, people are like, oh, the kills in Friday the 13th, the kills. I'm like, the kills look stupid half the damn time. Like,
yeah,
now I get it. If you grew up in the 80s and you're used to those VFX, if that's like, top tier VFX for your time period, like I get it. But rewatching it in the 2020s it looks cheap and lame to me.
yeah,
And then here's the thing, and it's not just Friday the 13th that I do this with. Anybody that overhypes things, it acts like this is, oh, it's the greatest thing ever made. Like, it
yeah,
really makes me just be like, if when things are mediocre and they do that, which Friday the 13th is just mediocre. It's not bad. It's just mediocre. And then, but then they do that. It makes me just exponentially hate it more and more the more people say it. And I've done that. I'm like that with many things. If it's mediocre and you overhype it, I'm gonna get pissed off about it. Now, if it's actually good and you overhype it, I'm gonna be like, yeah, you're right. But if it's,
yeah,
yeah, now if it's I've there are a few things that this has ever happened with where something is just absolute garbage. Friday the 13th is not one of those things. It's not absolute garbage. It's just mediocre. But there have been a few things that have just been absolute garbage that people overhype it. I'm just like, you have no fucking clue what you're talking about. That even
Yeah.
like, but yeah. Anyway, sorry about the rant. MisterHotTake.
No, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, the channel's called SheaRants. We need a rant at least once per video.
Right.
But yeah, so thank you for coming on and talking about horror movie remakes with me.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Of course. Anytime, of course, everyone go check out his channel. He does a bunch of reviews and hot takes, of course. So go check him out. He's got a bunch of great stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you.